So this is interesting. So Congress today held their first hearings on HR 40. HR 40 is not legislation to enact reparations, it's a study on reparations. So these are simply hearings to see if we should study the issue of reparations. Now, before going into this video, let's just clear one thing. I do not support the idea of reparations. I just don't. I've been clear about that in the past. I made a video about it called "Dear Black People, Reparations Are Not the Solution." You can check that out for my logic as to why, and I'll explain later on in this video. However, there was a speech delivered at these hearings by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and just check out a bit of it. It's extremely powerful. And it explains the basis of the argument for reparations, and I think it's a very powerful one. So just check it out real quick, and then we'll discuss.
Membership in either group. We recognize our lineage as a generational trust, as inheritance. And the real dilemma posed by reparations is just that, a dilemma of inheritance. It is impossible to imagine America without the inheritance of slavery. As historian Ed Baptist has written, enslavement, quote, shaped every crucial aspect of the economy and politics of America, so that by 1836, more than 600 million, or almost half of the economic activity in the United States derived directly or indirectly from the cotton produced by the million-odd slaves. By the time the enslaved were emancipated, they comprised the largest single asset in America. $3 billion in $1860, more than all the other assets in the country combined. The method of cultivating this asset was neither gentle cajoling nor persuasion, but torture, rape, and child trafficking. Enslavement reigned for 250 years on these shores. When it ended, this country could have extended its hallowed principles, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to all regardless of color. But America had other principles in mind. And so for a century after the Civil War, black people were subjected to a relentless campaign of terror, a campaign that extended well into the lifetime of Majority Leader McConnell. It is tempting to divorce this modern campaign of terror, of plunder, from enslavement. But the logic of enslavement, of white supremacy, respects no such borders. And the god of bondage was lustful and begat many heirs, coup d'etats and convict leasing, vagrancy laws and debt peonage, redlining and racist GI bills, poll taxes and state-sponsored terrorism. We grant that Mr. McConnell was not alive for Appomattox, but he was alive for the electrocution of George Stinney. He was alive for the blinding of Isaac Woodward. He was alive to witness kleptocracy in his native Alabama, and a regime premised on electoral theft. Majority Leader McConnell cited civil rights legislation yesterday, as well he should, because he was alive to witness the harassment, jailing, and betrayal of those responsible for that legislation by a government sworn to protect them. He was alive for the redlining of Chicago and the looting of black homeowners of some $4 billion. Victims of that plunder are very much alive today. I am sure they'd love a word with the Majority Leader. What they know, what this committee must know, is that while emancipation dead-bolted the door against the bandits of America, Jim Crow wedged the windows wide open. And that is the thing about Senator McConnell's something. It was 150 years ago, and it was right now. The typical black family in this country has 1/10 the wealth of the typical white family. Black women die in childbirth at 4 times the rate of white women. And there is, of course, the shame of this land of the free, boasting the largest prison population on the planet, of which the descendants of the enslaved make up the largest share. The matter of reparations is one of making amends and direct redress, but it is also a question of citizenship. In H.R. 40, this body has a chance to both make good on its 2009 apology for enslavement and reject fair-weather patriotism, to say that a nation is both its credits and its debits, that if Thomas Jefferson matters, so does Sally Hemings, that if D-Day matters, so does Black Wall Street, that if Valley Forge matters, so does Fort Pillow. Because the question really is not whether we will be tied to the somethings of our past, but whether we are courageous enough to be tied to the whole of them.
Listen, man, I want people to understand this. Because I don't want to hear any old dude or any old head in the comments section talking about some, you need to know your history, you need to know what we've been through, this is payback. I completely understand what we have been through. I've seen the documentaries, I've seen the movies, and most importantly, I've heard the stories. I see its effects. I see it every single day. Let me tell you something about me, man. My name's Drake. I'm 17. I'm from a working class neighborhood in Atlanta. I lived blocks away from one of the largest concentration of projects in the Southeast. I saw the direct effects of slavery and Jim Crow and the long lineage of oppression. There are people in my family who've gone to jail, who still to this day sling and sell drugs and whatever the hell they have to do to survive. To this day, there are people in my family who are hopped out on drugs. There are people in my family who are in the prison system. There are people who I've associated with my entire life who are poster childs for black oppression. I know, I've seen it, I've felt it. This is me. I know where I come from. And most importantly, this is what y'all don't seem to understand, people who support reparations, y'all don't know where we're going. Because how is this going to play in the future? Because the days of Jim Crow are over. The days of slavery are over. When Mitch McConnell sits here and tells Ta-Nehisi Coates, yes, slavery is over. You don't know anybody in your family who was indirectly enslaved. You don't know that many people in your family who were under the days of segregation. That's over, right? And when you say that, yeah, you might feel a twinge of annoyance because like you're undermining our current struggle. I get that. I'm not trying to deny that. I'm trying to solve it in a better way. Because one, let's understand this. Reparations is an act of alienation. I want you to imagine in America where we tell white people, you're going to now, all your hard-earned tax dollars, you busted your ass 9 to 5, sometimes 6 to 6. You busted your ass all week, and those tax dollars that you have to give up to Uncle Sam are going to go to some black dude down the street because they are butthurt. They are annoyed. They still feel the pain of slavery and Jim Crow, something that you had nothing directly to do with. I want you to imagine how that's going to play. I want you to imagine the amount of anger and resentment that's going to fester up yet again in America. People don't want to deal with that. That's just not smart policy. Those days, yes, they still affect us now. I completely understand that. I feel it every single day. I know where I come from. But those days have long been over. There is no reason to have to try to make some emotional statement of retribution, right? And make white people, make Asian people, make Latino people, people who had nothing to do with this system. They have nothing to do with it, directly at least. They had nothing to do with it. And now all of a sudden they have to pay money. They have to pay direct payments to you. Because you feel wronged. Yes, and we are wronged every day. But there are better ways to go about this than creating some emotional trauma within the nation, festering up old emotions that we've been trying our best over the last 50 plus years to get rid of. To eliminate from the American conscious. We're done with that. More and more people every day are becoming, multiracial. It's becoming more of a general pool. Race is trying to be eliminated as some societal construct. We can get rid of that shit and focus on the more important things in life, where it's just one common brotherhood and sisterhood of love and peace. That may sound fruity as hell. That sounded corny now I think about it, but bruh. You get my point, man. You get my point. We are trying to eliminate all of those old and raw emotions. And doing something like this is not what we want. All right? So that's point number one. All right? Point number two. This is the most important. I hope you stuck past you got to point number two. This is the most important point I want to make. Dude, it's just not good policy. If you want to revitalize the black community, as we should, as we should try to revitalize the entirety of the lower classes and the minority communities across this country, we should be striving every day to do that. And unfortunately, we've elected officials who don't give a shit about that. But we should be trying every day to do that. And the best way to do that does not involve signing over a blank check to the descendants of slaves. What does that do? Tell me. What does that do for you? What does that do for you? And also, how's that gonna look? Yeah, and you might say, yeah, that's what HR 40 is for. We're gonna study the issue. Okay, how long is it gonna take to study it? How long is it gonna take for these white ass, coon ass Republicans to then all of a sudden be like, oh, okay, I'm getting around to it. That's gonna take a few years, right? Then we gotta actually formulate the plan. That's gonna take another few years. Then we have to get the American people on board with it. That's gonna take another few years. It's gonna be a cycle of nonsense and bureaucracy. When we already have the American people on board to progressive reforms that would do a much better and efficient job of revitalizing our community. I say this all the time. What do black people need? What are our communities lacking? Education, jobs, investment. A cycle of oppression in our communities, right? Where all of a sudden we are mired in poverty, we are mired in unemployment, we are mired in the remnants of slavery and Jim Crow, right? That's step one. Right? So our parents and our ancestors have already been mired in that oppression. They pump out children, right? Who now have to grow up lacking education, lacking healthcare, lacking investment, growing up in a society where there's zero opportunities. And it's a cycle of poverty. It's a cycle of oppression that continues on and on and on. Not to mention, we have a criminal justice system that throws our children into jail disproportionately compared to their white counterparts. And that steps in to break up the family construct more and more and more. Again, I've seen it with my own eyes, with my own family members. I know what people go through. I've lived it. So I don't, again, please don't hit me with some, you need to know it. Shut the hell up. Shut the hell up. Please. All right? So I know the problem. This is the problem. We are lacking education, jobs, and investment. Our communities lack opportunity. Our communities lack investment. Our communities are not educating our children so that we can finally break the cycle of oppression. And until we do that, that's the most important point. Until we do that, a blank check is not going to fix that hole within our communities. It simply won't. It simply won't. Do you trust LaQuisha down the street with a blank check of $500 a month? Do you trust that? Because I sure as hell don't. That is inefficient. There are better ways to revitalize our community, to get to the root of the problem. Reparations, a blank check, or however the hell that's gonna look, does not do that. Now, let's understand something. What is the actual thing being studied here? They're trying to implement HR 40, which is simply a commission to study the issue. Do I support that? Hell to the hell yeah. Yes, I support HR 40. We should at least study the issue, see what it looks like. And I hope the conclusion is maybe we don't sign over a blank check to all the descendants of slaves. That sounds kind of stupid. How about we attack the root of what these black communities are going through on a daily basis? How about we get them education, jobs, and investment, and also reform the criminal justice system, which is throwing all their children and all their young men and even some young women of color into jail disproportionately compared to white counterparts. How about we attack the root of the problem? I hope that's the solution. I hope that's what they come to out of HR 40. Now, Mitch McConnell and his Republican buddies, as I've alluded to in this video, they are coon-ass, racist-ass motherfuckers. This is just what they do. They're not going to sign on to something that even hints at supporting reparations. And that's part of the problem. That's part of the initial problem. That's part of why I'm so annoyed as to why people seriously think this is a good idea. It's emotionally draining for the entire nation. And most importantly, it's simply not good policy. Get over yourselves. Those days, yes, it's as harsh and as annoying as it may be to hear, those days are over. We have got to move forward. And what is the best way to move forward? What is the best way to revitalize our communities? What is the best way to get our kids, to get our young men out of jail? What is the best way so that we can finally be on a level playing ground with our white counterparts? What is the best way to do that? Education, jobs, and investment. And none of that requires a blank check to the descendants of slaves, which is simply going to open up the past long overdue wounds that we've sealed, or at least tried our best to seal in America. So that's my opinion on it, man. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I will be annoyed if an old head comes to me talking about I don't know my history, but you're welcome to do that. All right. So yeah, man, that's the video. I'm not a fan of reparations. I'm not. I just think it's bad policy. So again, let me know what you think.